Hello, my name is Mark, and I thank you so much for coming by today. If you're familiar with my videos or my artwork, you may already know that I love working with watercolor paints, both personally and professionally. Over the years, I've acquired a lot of paints and created unique sets to suit specific needs. For example, this customized set here is made up of half pans filled with both Daniel Smith and Schmincke watercolors. The tin box itself is from a company called Meeden and was designed to hold 48 half pans of paint. But for me, one of my favorite hobbies is to build and modify watercolor sets, and with this tin, I was able to expand it to hold 17 additional half pans of paint. Because Daniel Smith and Schmincke paints play well together, and because I have a lot of both brands, I wanted a set to include both instead of having two separate sets. It's a great marriage of the two brands, and with the extra pans, I was able to include some custom colors like the pastels I made, which you can see on the bottom row. Other sets, like these A Gallo watercolors from Italy, come in a similar tin. The great thing about this set is that it came pre-loaded and I didn't really have to do much to start using it. These paints are made with rosemary oil, so they give off a light, warm, natural fragrance unlike any other paints I've used. And the best thing about this tin is that it's also expandable, so when I'm ready to indulge in buying some new A Gallo half pans, I'll have the room to add more. Now, this discussion is not meant to be one of those, wow, look how many cool sets of paint I have, but rather to show how you can expand a set of paints or use a unique tin or box to create a special set that has meaning and is fun to work with. I'll also do a brief walkthrough at the end of the video on how I like to modify a set quickly and efficiently to hold the maximum number of paints in what we can call a super palette. Now, don't get me wrong, I still have plenty of sets that have between 5 and 10 colors in them, and I love working with limited palettes. But having a super palette means having a lot of convenience colors that are ready to go when I just want to dive in and have some fun, or when I just don't have the time to properly mix my own colors. Also, if you have a lot of tubes of paint kicking around, this is a great way to build a new set for yourself, as a gift for someone else, or to sell if that's something you're interested in as well. Large sets like these can often sell for hundreds of dollars, especially with unique configurations and unique boxes. A good example of this would be this box here. This is from the limited edition Wicker Man DVD box set that I bought years ago. It's one of my favorite films, and I was thrilled when I bought it. However, the box sat on a shelf for years until one day I decided to move the two DVDs to a separate storage case and turn this beautiful wood box into an M-gram watercolor box set. The set includes 44 full pans of my favorite M-gram paints, and with the box, it's just really something to behold. Something to note is that M-gram has a line of watercolors that's only 70 colors, 2 of which are black, 2 of which are white, and 2 that are gray. So you can imagine having 44 out of 66 colors makes for a pretty comprehensive set. With the unique Wicker Man box and such a rich set of dense colors, this set could easily sell for hundreds of dollars if I chose to sell it. The good news is, of course, I have no plans to sell it anytime soon. This is the Sakura Koi Field Box Kit, which holds 24 small half pans of student-grade paints along with a removable mixing palette and a water brush, which I absolutely love. It's an inexpensive set, around $20 to $25, so it's perfect for a beginner or as a gift. The only issues I've had with it are that the pans are very small, about half to 3/4 the size of an actual half pan. Also, there's a lot of wasted space around the sides and the paint layout area. So I chose to remove the entire plastic inner mold, including the paints, and replace it with 37 half pans of Winsor Newton paints and a couple of Daniel Smith pans as well. I could have fit 43 pans, but I wanted to keep that space there for the water brush. So when we talk about unique boxes, this is a vintage Chesterfield cigarette tin, which I repurposed into a beautiful watercolor box. Originally, I used it to consolidate 3 sets of Prima Marketing paints called Watercolor Confections. While these paints were a lot of fun to paint with, there were issues with how they were made. Transparency, pigments, and light fastness were all something that were not given in the information on the packaging. So I've since changed them out for other paints a few times since. Right now, it's filled with 36 empty half pans that are ready to be filled. This here is the popular portable painter palette, which I received from Tio from parkablogs.com in one of his giveaways. It's an incredibly designed product, but for me, I saw room for expansion. So I carved out the plastic to fit 2 extra half pans in the palette, taking it from 12 to 14 pans. This may not sound like much, but having the option to add an extra yellow or a Payne's gray can be a big deal to someone who's on the go and loves painting with watercolors. In fact, I made a video of this modification, which I'll link down below. What was most humbling about this was to receive an email from the company founder and designer, Steve Padden, who applauded my video and praised the modification as being pretty heroic. Within the next year, Steve Padden released an update to the portable painter palette with a new option to customize the product from 12 to 18 half pans by using the brush compartment to fit new pans. I can't say that my video had anything to do with his redesign, but I'd like to think that maybe my hobby may have influenced a product upgrade, which would be really cool. Now, recently I purchased this Purple Galaxy tin from Meeden. I love the celestial look of this tin, which will be a great addition to my other sets. Upon opening the box, it's like the other boxes I have and consistent with other Meeden tin products that I've purchased. The primary tray uses clips to hold up to 48 or 52 half pans or 24 full pans. But for me, I want to modify this set into a super palette to hold the maximum number of paint pans that I can fit. The first step in modifying this set for me is to remove the front bottom mixing palette. I never use this palette and find that it actually gets in my way. Removing it is simple and only requires removing the hinge bar, which means that I can actually replace that bar and put the palette back on if I ever want to. Once I remove the palette, I'm left with the primary tray and the cover, which has 4 large mixing wells. What I want to do is replace the primary tray. So, using a strong piece of cardboard, like from the back of a watercolor pad or a sketchbook, I cut out a piece in the same shape as the primary tray. When I lift the primary tray out using the lifting clips on the side, it reveals an extra set of 7 mixing wells. Again, these wells are not something that I use, so for me, having access to them is not important. I know that some artists like to have these mixing wells there, but for me, having 19 mixing wells in one set is a bit much. The next step is to cut more pieces of that same strong board to fit into these mixing wells under the primary tray, so it creates a flat, even surface for the new tray to lay on. These pieces don't have to be measured or look perfect, as they'll be out of sight once the new tray is placed inside. By taping 2 pieces of ribbon on the back side of the new tray, this will allow me to be able to lift out the new tray if I need to, just like the metal lifting clips on the original tray. Once ready, I test it to make sure the new tray will fit into the tin easily without getting stuck or hung up on the sides. My plan for this new set is to utilize full pans of paint. So, looking back at the original layout, it's clear that I can only fit 7 pans horizontally across on the new tray. In the original layout, there's enough room to fit a paintbrush, but not enough room to fit another row of pans. I should note that I don't like the original clip-in tray because pans often come loose and slide around when using it. I could fix this by using an adhesive to hold down the pans like tape or putty, but that still wouldn't allow me to expand the set to hold more pans. By removing the full pans and laying them out without any space between them, I can see how these pans will fit together. 4 rows by 7 columns means 28 full pans, which is not a bad set, but again, I can see the opportunity to expand this set to add another row of pans to give me a set of 35 full pans. And once I lay them out, and I can see what the final configuration will look like, I can flip the pans over to begin applying an adhesive to fix them to the new tray. There are lots of ways to adhere pans to a tray, like using double-sided tape, putty, or even hot glue. I choose to use a double-sided foam tape, which is strong enough to hold the pans in place without any shifting and add a bit of height to the pans from the tray. After affixing the foam tape to the bottom of each pan, I then place the strips of regular double-sided clear tape on the top of the new tray to create an even stronger bond to keep those pans from shifting around later. Once all the pans are laid out, I remove the foam tape cover and carefully press each pan onto the new tray in a grid that maintains a small space between each pan. This space between each pan will help keep paint from overflowing into the other pans when pouring and help keep paint from mixing into other pans when I'm using it with a brush. Now, of course, the most difficult step in modifying a tin into a super palette is what paints do I put in? It's a difficult choice because when you have a love for watercolors and you want to try different things, it's tough to say which paints do you put in. Do you combine others? Do you do a set of Winsor & Newton, Daniel Smith, Magello, Schmincke, M. Graham, or maybe something else? In the end, I chose to fill these pans with a paint that is as beautiful to look at as it is to work with, and I'm excited for the years ahead that I'll be working with these paints. Now, let's talk about a super palette. Because I may need to start planning for my biggest palette yet, one that will hold a whopping 45 pans of color or a ridiculous 84 half pans. I think I'm going to need to think about this one because I just don't know if I could even handle all that. So for now, I thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please subscribe to the channel so I can bring you more videos like this in the future. For now, I hope you're indulging your creative spirit and having fun doing it. As always, thank you again, take care, and God bless.